So we survived Mexico, and then my parents visited. So
Your mom made some incredible dinners, and she does her thing in the kitchen, and I do my thing.
I am a meticulous planner, so I had everything planned from day 1 to day 21 when they were here. From massages to touring the city to the 4-day trip that we took together. Every day was planned.
It was a pig that literally ran down the street that almost looked like he was about to attack us. We didn't know. We thought it was a dog from far away, and then we realized it was a pig. And then it was told to us that the town as a whole has animals, and some of those animals are pigs.
My dad was like, "Oh, let's go to TGI Fridays," and I'm like, "No, I've left the U.S. not to eat American food or not to be surrounded by American things." So, I was trying to feed their comfort level, but still also get them to experience what it is like to be in Mexico. Welcome back to This Might Be a Bad Idea, where love, life, and chaos collide. This week, we're going to be talking about my parents' visit to Merida for their first time. So we survived Mexico, and then my parents visited. So Jeff was a great husband, and he did prepare the house. So I left earlier to go to work because I go back every quarter. And Jeff, during this time, it was his job to prepare their room and to prepare the house before we got there, because I took my parents back. We got on the plane together and came back to Merida together, so they didn't have to experience the whole airport thing without me. So you want to talk about that?
Good call. Yeah, then I think, I wanted to make sure that when your parents got here that, everything looked good, but there's a lot of stuff that had to be done. Out in the sun, I was working really hard, scrubbing the walls. A lot of, in Mexico, a lot of mildew type fungus grows on the walls due to it being so, damp here. So, I wanted to make sure, of course we have white walls, so it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. So I spent time scrubbing, all the walls, just trying to get out that. So it didn't look like there's, fungus growing on our walls and mildew. But I ended up scrubbing that. And then, I had a ton of weeding to do, right? A lot of weeds grow here just because of how humid it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I was out there trying to do that. And then, like you said, I was just trying to get their bedroom ready, clean sheets on there. We have a cat that loves to spend time in that room.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to make sure that the cat didn't go in there after it was cleaned. So, of course, it would be as comfortable as possible. So, a lot of work. And I hope that, they felt completely comfortable.
Yeah, I gave Jeff his marching orders, and he did a great job.
You do.
He did also, you didn't talk about the mural that you painted on the wall. Well, not mural, but stenciled on the wall.
Yeah, of course, you wanted to make the room a little bit more fancier than 4 white walls. So you bought this stencil.
Yeah.
And then we bought paint. And, it was pretty simple, just making sure the stencils lined up, taping it. Now, it wasn't, of course, a giant stencil. It was, maybe 2 feet by like 3 feet, right? So you'd tape it up on the wall and then you'd paint it. Yeah, and I thought it looked good, kind of like a highlighted wall. So, pretty easy. Took all day, but pretty easy. But I think they liked it. Your mom, I think, liked it, like the color, that turquoise color.
Yeah, I wanted it to be soothing, relaxing. We do have another accent wall in our living room, which is kind of a deeper green. So I didn't want it to be too dark. I wanted it to be something light and natural. That since I knew they were going to spend most of their time in the bedroom, I didn't want it too dark. But yeah, we did that. And then you also hung all the curtains.
Yeah, we hung 2 different curtains, so you get the nice dark out curtains and then the lighter curtains. So, we hung those. And yeah, I thought it was going to be exciting for when you get home because you'll be able to see everything together. The curtains up, the painted walls, everything was clean. And I think I thought it looked good. I thought definitely, they did spend some time in the room. So, they did enjoy it.
Yeah, and that was one of the things when we were looking at a home to purchase in Merida was we wanted a first floor master for, when my parents would visit, so they didn't have to climb stairs. They did come and climb the stairs just to see the whole house, but most of the time they were downstairs the whole time. So downstairs was really their domain. And then our first floor bedroom bathroom is a hall bath and a bedroom. So, Jeff even put kind of a curtain to...
Yeah, we hung the curtain so they could go in and out of their room to the bathroom without anybody, say, being in the living room, staring at them. And I thought that worked out well.
Trying to give them a little bit more
that was your
privacy.
idea.
Yes,
It was your idea. I just install it.
Yeah.
I do the easy part.
But it was just, give them a little bit more privacy. All our other bedrooms are en suite. The one downstairs is the only one that is. It's in the hall because we had the option of making the room that we use as a storage room is actually where our solar panel system is. We could have made that into a half bath and then made the other one into an ensuite. But essentially, we have already 5 bathrooms and we don't use them all anyway. So we're like, we don't need another bathroom. We need more storage. So we ended up keeping that in storage. But it still worked out. I think it worked out well for them. And they had made the space feel like their own. We, had hangers. They had a full closet. The TV was set up for them. And, the bed was comfortable for me, not for them. My parents enjoy.
Really, they complained about it?
Well, she told me at the end. They enjoy softer beds, and I've always known this.
Oh.
I like harder beds. My parents like softer beds. So next time, what we'll do is we'll get like a mattress. The little foam pads to make it the toppers to make it softer for them. I always forget about that. I enjoy a harder bed than most people.
Yeah.
So.
Well, better for your back. At least all the chiropractors said.
That's what this.
But I don't know either. But I think that's a good idea. And I'm thankful that your parents flew out. I mean, they're older, so it's tough to get on a plane, off a plane, and that's 2 flights. So it was a lot. I'd say my parents, I have no chance of them coming out. They feel like they're fine with being on the ground rather than being in the air, and I guess I'm fine with that. I'll send them pictures and videos, but it was great for them to come out and especially spend the time that they did. And it seemed like they did enjoy it. Definitely the backyard. We cooked dinner every night. So it was definitely a family affair.
Yeah, I mean, it was, living with your in-laws is never going to be easy. Living with anyone who is never going to be easy. There are always going to be some adjustments.
Sure.
Obviously. So Jeff in our home is the one that cooks and cleans everything. But my mom does like to cook and do her own thing. So that was an adjustment for Jeff, being kicked out of the kitchen.
Yeah, I'm definitely being kicked. And just, I am sort of a control freak where
Yes, he is.
Cooking things, using different things. And I definitely had to, not, I guess bite my tongue, just not, mind my own business. And your mom made some incredible dinners and she does her thing in the kitchen and, I do my thing in the kitchen.
We'll just leave it at that. And then, my dad did help on the barbecue. We made steaks and burgers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And that was great.
My dad always jokes with Jeff now because he times everything.
Yeah, I do time.
My dad was like, you just know when it's done. And Jeff was like, I need a timer. He's like, Alexa, set timer for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I think, he's been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
I'm have been cooking for like 10 years. And I don't cook a lot of steaks, so, but I am learning and I learned a lot from you. I definitely did, just some of his techniques and things like that. But I think, I do like the timer. I think, timer, you can't really go wrong normally. If you time it, definitely a little bit early, then you check it. But he knows it. I mean, he knows it by the smell in the air, and that's a professional right there. An amateur. I'm still kind of doing things, but I rely on the timer.
I mean, I think it worked out. It was just, again, adjustments of 4 different people living together in a home. I was still working full time. I mean, I still work full time. So a lot of the times I'd be upstairs in my office and, Jeff was working in our pseudo office in our bedroom. So my parents were just downstairs by themselves, essentially, when the days we weren't planning anything, right? So my dad spent a lot of time outdoors on our deck, our patio, sitting by the pool and just, listening to music or just, being on his phone. And my mom, spent time in the bedroom watching TV and kind of just relaxing. This was their time to really not have to think about anything because I am a meticulous planner. So I had everything planned from day 1 to day 21 when they were here, from massages to, touring the city to, the 4-day trip that we took together. Every day was planned. So I did try to give them breaks in between because, again, my parents are my dad will be 80 this year and my mom is, they're in their late 70s. So I didn't want to give them breaks where they could just decompress and relax at home. And also I needed to work. So we did kind of do that. And then the one day I really felt bad because we took a walking tour of Merida and the guy was like out. he
He was a hustler.
he hustled.
He wanted to get that tour that might have been a 3 hour tour for like an hour.
Yeah.
I mean, he was definitely pushing through, and we were hustling.
Yeah, I was just like, can we slow down a little bit? You know, we need to take breaks. We need to sit down a little bit. So he did oblige, and we sat down. We went to a little restaurant. We had breakfast, walked around a little bit more, and then we went to the famous market that Jeff hates going to. Jeff didn't go, but my dad was looking for mangoes the whole time he was here. He thought he was in Jamaica. I mean, every time we were here, he was like, mangoes, where can we get a mango? And mangoes at the time were kind of off season here, but you know, he finally got mangoes when we went to the San Benito market. But, you know, my mom and I and Jeff kind of sat down in the park and just kind of relaxed. And then Jeff got attacked by ants.
Well, I did. I sat on a bench and there was a bunch of ants. And then all of a sudden I got up and I realized the ants went from the bench to me. And I had a bunch of ants on me. They weren't stinging ants.
Yeah, they were just ants in your pants.
Yeah, you just had to kind of brush them off. And as you walk, they usually fall down. So no big deal.
So be careful where you sit.
Right. But that was a great tour. Yeah. I think, you know, it was great. You could tour and at the same time burn a ton of calories because you're rushing through the town. I mean, we probably did 4 or 5 miles almost, it felt like.
I think the best part was the last place we went to, the museum at the end, which is like the food of Mexico and Merida, of the Yucatan. So we got to go see, it's almost kind of like you go indoors and there's a restaurant there as well, but then they show you all the different, you know, peppers and beans and, you know, tortilla presses and things that they use in order to make the food. And then as you're walking through at the end, you see these women making handmade tortillas, which they make them fresh for you to hot off the tortilla press, and you're holding them and they're just so hot, but they taste so good. Yeah. And then you have the guy there that's, making the pork. So he's burying the pork underground for the cochinita pibil. And then he serves 4 restaurants from that pork that he does. So it was just great seeing
4 holes. So he would dig the 4 holes, and he would transfer, and this is all day he was doing this, transfer coals from one hole to the next hole, and then put the pig in there, and of course bury it, and then he'd work on the next. So all day he was just manning 4 holes with pigs and cooking pigs all day. And what a workout.
Yeah, it was just amazing to see. And then we did go to one of the restaurants that did also was serviced by, you know, the tortillas and the pork as well. I think I got the seafood anyway, but none of us ate pork. My dad doesn't eat pork, so that wasn't a big adjustment for him coming to Mexico, where pork is the number one main meat. So, you know, he just kind of diverted to either chicken or steak. But it was kind of hard because we would stop some places and like, that's all they serve was pork. So that was an adjustment for him. And Jeff doesn't eat a lot of pork. He does eat pork, but
yeah, I mean, of course, I'm trying to cut back on some of that stuff. And I, you know, of course, the number one thing they eat in Mexico is pork. Yeah. And then I think they said chicken.
Yeah, pork and chicken.
So definitely a lot of pork. Definitely you have to watch. You know, I think, everywhere there's pork available. So not a ton of selections, but it was great food though. Really great food. I think everywhere we've gone has been great food, and the tortillas are always homemade. It's amazing. I'm kind of getting used to eating homemade tortillas.
Yeah. I mean, that was an adjustment too. Just, their expectations of everything, because my dad is like, oh, let's go to TGI Fridays. And I'm like, no, I left the U.S. not to eat American food or not to be surrounded by American things. So, I was trying to feed their comfort level, but still also get them to experience what it is like to be in Mexico. So, I think Craig took them, which is my cousin, took them to a burger place that was a Mexican burger place, and they got to experience that. But, I tried to keep it pretty authentic with the food that I gave them as much as possible. And they grew to like it at the end. They liked the food and they liked the experience. And, it's just teaching them what things they can find here versus the things that, in the U.S., there were certain medications and things that, not medications, but supplements my mom was looking for. And I was like, well, they don't have that in Mexico. We can find something similar, but it's not that in Mexico. So I think we have adjusted pretty easily. I think we're pretty adaptable to things. So just my parents being older, they're kind of used to doing what they do and what they've been doing for years, and then having to adjust is a bigger adjustment.
Yeah, I think no offense to TGI Fridays, but we're here. We're not from Mexico. We're now living in Mexico. You need to support
Yeah,
the
local.
local.
Yeah.
Again, no offense to those restaurants, but you want to support local
Yeah.
regardless. And that's what we'll do. And we'll do that till the very end. And,
Yeah.
we found some incredible restaurants, and we found some crappy restaurants, right? So it's just, we'll go to the ones that we feel that taste great and that are, a great cost.
Yeah, I think
support local.
we had a good time. We went to Sisal Beach. We had a great time out there, walking in the water, being in the water, and then even ordering food right on the beach, which was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the fish was great. That we got. I was pretty surprised and pretty reasonable. It was a small town. So if you've ever been to Sisal Beach, I definitely experience. We went originally to Celestune, where we got to see the pink flamingos. Jeff and I. But I wanted to go do something a little slower because, again, dealing with my parents or 80-year-olds, they're not going to be hopping on a boat and going on a tour. So we just decided to do a day at the beach, which they really enjoyed and liked. That was about an hour, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think that was where we drove somewhere and then we had to get in the car and drive the opposite direction.
No, that was not.
That was a great beach. And I think anyone, is in Mexico should go to that beach because they did have great food and, for a day trip. It was great. I mean, it almost felt like you were there for very little time because you had such a great time. But you realize you've been there for 6 hours.
Yeah. We didn't even want to leave because we were like, oh, but you should probably go. We left what did we leave at 8 a.m?
Yeah.
And we left the beach around 2 p.m. Yeah. So we were there for a good amount of time. So by the time we got there, it started to get a little bit crowded anyway by the time we left. But yeah, so it was a big adjustment for us. And then, being in Mexico, noise does echo. So, we're going from 2 to 4 people. So the noise volume goes up. We were worried about Leo because our cat likes to cry at 4 a.m. in the morning, and we didn't want them to be disturbed, from their sleep because they're on vacation. But my parents sleep with their TV on. So
that was perfect.
So I don't think they didn't. We would ask them in the morning, "Did you hear Leo?" And they're like, "No, we didn't hear anything." And I'm like, "We can hear Leo. Leo's downstairs crying. We're upstairs. We can hear him, but they can't hear him because I guess they had their TV on, but which we can also hear from our room."
Yeah, their loud TV.
Their TV.
The loud TV fixed everything.
Yeah, in some ways, yeah. But yeah, so because everything's made of concrete, everything does echo. So if someone's on a phone, or the phone rings and, and you're in the living room and I'm in the office, in my office upstairs, or Jeff's in his room, we can all hear the whole conversation because everything echoes. So a lot of times I was at my office and I was working and I'm on a conference call and I can hear my dad's phone going, do, 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 and it has this little ringtone. And then I'm like, oh my God, and I'm like slamming the door. So I could, focus and be on my work conference call. So just small adaptations, now having more people in the house, but it was still just a great experience to get to show the parents the home that we created in Mexico, that we're safe, that we're good, we're okay.
Yeah. The neighborhood's safe.
Yeah.
And I think they were very proud of you. I think they thought, wow, I mean, you picked a great place, a great area. It is, and it's very safe here. Completely safe. I completely feel safe.
Well, you took my dad on a tour.
We did. I wanted to, of course, they're home. We don't have a vehicle. So, and it's always good to get out and walk. So I did take him down to the local town, the town that I walk in quite a bit. And, just to see the locals. And, he was definitely interested. I would probably say maybe too interested because he was being a little nosy, kind of walking up to some people's doors, kind of almost staring into their living room because, we're dealing with a town where, a lot of the doors and windows are open.
Well, they don't have a door or window, literally.
Yeah. The doors and windows are open. So your dad walked in, of course, just kind of stared at people that were sitting in their home. But it was great. We ended up walking down the street, seeing the whole town. And then we ran into their local pig. And I never saw that. It's the first time I've ever seen that where, it was a pig that literally ran down the street that almost looked like he was about to attack us. We didn't know. We thought it was a dog from far away. And then we realized it was a pig. And then it was told to us that the town
It's the town
as a whole has animals, and some of those animals are pigs, and the town as a whole takes care of the pigs somewhat, and also the dogs and the cats that live in the town. So we were able to run into the local pig. Of course, your dad got a kick out of that, so that was great. I think he took some pictures. So definitely some good memories of, the homeless pig that was running down the street. And it was just great exercise to walk down the street.
Yeah, and you didn't talk about the corn experience.
So the corn experience, yeah. So as we were walking down, there's a lot of people, in front of their homes selling things because, you could do that. You don't need permits here.
Yeah.
So the one woman had this cart and she was, I guess, serving little pieces of corn. For me, I'm not really probably buying a lot of that food because I just don't know how it's cooked or anything. But your dad, I guess, it felt like it was great to support locals and buy this corn. And it was, it was just your regular corn on the cob. She chopped it up in quarters. And I guess she just straight boiled it with absolutely nothing on it. So she just kind of took it out of the water and gave it to your dad. And it wasn't good at all. And
Well, he said it wasn't cooked all the way.
Yeah.
It was old. And then he came and had a run home, and he went to the bathroom.
And yeah,
unfortunately.
I'm really not sure I want to go over it in that much detail in the story, but yeah, I definitely
It was not a good
was one of the reasons why I don't really buy too much stuff in those situations. But again, it was as simple as boiled corn that he got that, he felt really sick. So it was any little thing.
Yeah, I mean,
who would think boiled
so
corn?
my dad usually has a hard stomach and he can eat anything, but in Mexico has definitely challenged him. And I think it's just also, like you said, anyone can pop up and start selling stuff on the side of the road. And so there's no inspections, there's no licensing. You just start selling. You don't know how long people have been sitting there. You don't know how long the food's been sitting there. It's hot out here, refrigeration, anything could go wrong. So, if you have a sensitive stomach, you don't know what's been in the food, how it's been washed, that can affect you.
Or if you have a stomach in general.
Well, I mean, Mexicans, they're used to it, right? So they can sometimes drink the water here, where we can't. If we drink the water, we would be going to the bathroom.
Well, and that was told to us, like, by some of our neighbor friends, things to look out for.
Yeah.
Definitely those, places that sell tacos on the side of the road or burritos. And mainly for the reason is that they don't have a cooling system. So a lot of that meat is just sitting out in the hot weather. We're doing, 90-degree weather all day. So, the stuff that's not cooked yet might have gone bad and they're cooking it. So, definitely not. I wouldn't do that anyway. I was kind of shocked that your dad went over it.
Or you wanted to try it. Yeah.
Oh, he tried it all. And it's something I'm sure he'll remember for quite a bit of time there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did run back to our house with that.
Yeah. But no, it was very different for him because we live in the middle of nowhere. So he's just like, he walked outside. He's like, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm like, where? And he's like, oh, I want to go outside. I'm like, okay, great. And he's like, he comes back in maybe 2 minutes later. And I was like, what happened? He's like, there's nothing around. I was like, yeah, I told you that we live in the middle of nowhere. So there is nothing there. I think that the only thing now is there's a little pop up across the street because some guy decided, hey, the construction workers might need some refreshments. Yeah. So they sell Cokes and tacos. That's the only thing that's really walkable. There is a shop like a mile or 1.1 miles that does like fruits and vegetables.
So yeah, around our area, there's a lot of construction going on. There isn't a lot of people. And what I've noticed is there is a lot of guys that are from the construction area that get on scooters and they'll cruise down and get Cokes. A lot of times it's Cokes and chips and things like that. So the neighbor across the street said, okay, well, we'll just have everything shipped. We'll have a bunch of stuff shipped there. And then, of course, people will just come by from there. And that's exactly what they did. So across the street, they had a little hole in their wall and then they sell Coca-Cola out of that.
Yeah. So my dad did walk over there a few times to buy Coke for my mom because she got into a Coke kick. Not that type of Coke, but Coca-Cola.
Well, and it's made here with the real sugar.
The real cane sugar.
It's kind of like a more addictive Coke.
Yeah, so a lot of people in Mexico, that's like their number one drink. It's not water, it's Coke, so I think their veins are made of Coca-Cola. You can see all the construction workers. There's bottles of Coke everywhere.
Massive amount of Coca-Cola.
Yeah. I think we went to the grocery store and then there was 3 refrigerators filled with Coke because that's how much people drink Coke here. But yeah, so it was, I mean, all in all, I think it was a good experience. We gave my parents a tour of the supermarkets and the towns and the malls, and it is very still Americanized. So if this was like your transition to another country, I think from the US, it would be an easy transition because there is your big box stores, there's your Sears, and Liverpool is similar to like your Bloomingdale's, Macy's. You have the movie theaters, you have, Texas Roadhouse, there are TGI Fridays, Chili's, PF Chang's, and there's multiple malls everywhere, which has a lot of American stuff. Your Starbucks, of course, they're everywhere. McDonald's, Wendy's, Pizza Hut, Domino's, Little Caesars. Popeyes just came, so I'm just name dropping all these places and I'm not getting paid.
I know. Stop.
But yeah, so it is an easy transition if you're American and you want to feel like you are surrounded by the American stuff. So I think coming here and them experiencing that did give it a little easy transition. But for us, we try to avoid all those places. We did take them to some places. I think we went to Walmart the first time with my parents because we've never gone. We just try to shop local at local stores. But yeah, so I think, is there one rule that you might set next time they come visit?
I mean, I think everything went smooth. I think, of course, having a vehicle there would be great.
I thought you were going to be honest here.
I'm not answering. No.
That was the whole point. We literally said.
I feel like you're setting me up.
We literally said we'd be honest about this.
No, I mean, I thought it went over smoother than I expected. I thought that was good. I wouldn't change anything, about it. Would I ship them out to another hotel? No, because I think this place is big enough where they stayed here, and I think we were, it was big enough for everyone to be comfortable, even with 4 people.
So are you glad we took that little vacation away and broke up the trip?
Yeah, I mean, I think your scheduling is phenomenal. I think you scheduled everything perfect. I think when you first told me, I thought, wow, it's just definitely a lot. But then you scheduled it where we have the rest days, then some days at the cenote days, or the rest days, then the beach days. So I thought you, set it up perfectly where everything felt really comfortable.
Okay. Thank you for being honest. And then how long would you say?
I can't. Go ahead.
How long would you say is too long for a visit?
I mean, that 3 weeks definitely was 3 weeks feels like 3+ weeks, right? It was definitely a long term, but now I look at it, I thought that was fine. I'm just glad that they flew here and they spent time with us. I think, again, with my parents, I don't think they're going to do that. So, you do look at that situation and think, wow, it's just great for them to be here and experience where we're living, where we are, pretty much 24/7.
Yep.
So, and then again, I think everything went smooth because I think I'd probably be a little bit honest about them.
Yeah, for me, it was definitely easier because I talked to my mom a lot about where we live and what we do, and her seeing it firsthand made it more real, and she could understand it more once she got here. And she's like, oh, she knows the distance from here, and she says, oh, well, we took the exit there and we turned there, and so now when I tell her stuff, she's understanding more. So it's not just a story in her mind; she can actually picture it. And I do remember on the day that they were leaving, I did get a little emotional because, again, I was leaving my parents or they're leaving me, and again, they're older, so it's just appreciating and slowing down and being able to be present in that moment and spending that time with them was amazing to get to have them for 3 weeks. And we'll do that again this Christmas. They'll come and visit another time. We don't know how long, but they'll stay again. And then the plan is to have my dad's sister, her kids live here too, so they were planning on coming and visiting too, not staying with us, but staying with their family, and then us having a Christmas together. So it'd be nice to have family, which always makes this a little challenging and easier, when they're here and being able to connect. So
yeah, I agree.
So yes, we would do it again, and this was a good idea, not a bad idea. Bad idea approved. Thanks for tuning in. This was the Parents Visit on This Might Be a Bad Idea.